Approvals is a web-based application that allows you the ability to raise a number of different things, of which purchase requisitions is just the first. It also runs on a mobile device, whether that's an iOS or an Android device. So all we're going to do is we're going to show you how we can generate a purchase requisition, how that integrates with standard Sage purchase order processing. We'll follow that through to show you how it gets approved and then post into standard Sage pot. So you'll see on the menu on the left-hand side, approvals does a number of different things, including purchase requisitions. If you want to see more information on any of the other modules, please refer to our website. So let's play the role of Gordon, and Gordon is one of your members of staff who needs the ability to create a new requisition. Pretty simple. You'll see that this links to all of the suppliers on the purchase ledger, but we do have the ability to be able to filter those, one of which is preventing your staff from able to access all of the suppliers, so that could prevent them, so they can only see approved suppliers. But you also have the ability to categorize different types of suppliers. These are completely configurable. So as an example, if I just specifically wanted to look for food organizations, that would just simply filter it through to that particular organization. I can very easily search for a company just by keying in the first couple of letters. Now, there is the ability to create stock templates, rather like your shopping basket, to make it an awful lot easier for staff to be able to generate a quick requisition. Now, all we're doing is we're mirroring standard Sage purchase order processing, which gives us the ability to add a free text, add a stock text, add a comment line, and add a charge line. So let's start off with adding a free text. Now, all I'm going to do is order a new laptop today, pop in the quantity, pop in the price. Now, this does link to our projects module as well as Sage Project Accounting. Now, in this instance, we're just going to limit it to the nominal account. And all I've done in the background is I've set up Gordon with his own selection of nominal cost center departmental codes. Now, this is actually where it also becomes a budgetary tool for your organization as well. So whether that's giving visibility to your budget holders, to what's been spent, what's left over, prevent them from even raising the requisition. So if I'm a user, all that would happen is requisitions would look at that assigned nominal account and its budget back in Sage for you to determine whether there is sufficient enough money left in the pot. Off the back of that, you then have a series of options which can be predefined in the background, really dependent upon how strict you may or may not want to be. The first of which is that it can actually prevent that requisition from going any further if that nominal budget is already exceeded. If that's too strict and rigid for you, then the secondary option is that you simply allow it to go through, and it's then very much up to the manager and the budget holder to make that decision as to whether they want to allow it to go through or not. The third can be tied to what we call a group reporting structure, where it can check other nominal budgets in that group reporting to see if there's perhaps any money left in another pot. So it's giving your staff the flexibility to choose from a bigger pot of money, if you will. The last option is that it can go to what we call a named over budget approver. So it might not be typically the line manager, it might be somebody, say, like the finance director. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to save that requisition line. And as you can see, we can add as many additional lines as we like. Pretty much the same when it comes to adding a stock line, but of course the advantage of having a stock item is that it's then going to look at the nominal account that's already preset against that item in the background. And again, it's going to pull through the cost for me if that's already defined in the background. And there we go, there's the nominal account that's already defined for us. Save, and again, that's going to add to our line accordingly. Now we can mark this as urgent. So on the main screen, you'll see that we can mark it as urgent. We can pop in a reason as to why we want to order it, and we can even add some documentation. So that might be a quote that we've been given, and users are defined with our own delivery and invoice details. From here, I can either save it and come back to it at a later date. I could even print a quote request if I want to send this through to a supplier. But if I'm happy with that, I have nothing else to add. So we've got our laptop and our cable gland now. All I simply do is click Save and Submit, And that's where it's going to now automatically generate an email notification out to whoever the approver is that's defined in the background, and the approver can be defined an approval workflow by the nominal cost center departmental code. It could be defined by the requesting user or the value. So we'll come and take a look at the workflow later on for you. So I've now logged on as Sarah, as Gordon's manager, and there's that requisition that Gordon has literally just generated. But we've got a little red flag just to highlight to us that that one is actually over budget. And again, it's flagging it in that pink shade for us. So if I now come to my budgets tab, this is where I can drill down. And this is really, as I mentioned earlier on, where it becomes far more than an electronic way of generating requisitions. It really does become a very powerful budget control tool for us. So this is where I can see the budget that's been defined back in Sage, whether that's monthly, year to date, annually. We can check all of the actual spend. That could be a purchase ledger invoice that's gone through Sage, and it could also be a matched invoice against that purchase order. If we want to allow our staff to defer any spend to future years, we can do. This is then showing us all of the fully approved purchase orders that have hit Sage, as well as all of those requisitions that haven't as yet been approved. And then essentially what's remaining, but I can actually drill down to see all of the transactions that's made up that spend. So this is where I can come into the detailed reporting. So no more having to issue financial reports from finance to managers. And similarly, the managers don't need to be keeping their own separate Excel spreadsheets anymore to keep track of what actually has been spent and where they're at against their budgets. So as you can see, I can see my actual transactions. We've got all of the fully approved purchase orders here with the PO number and the unit price, etc. We can see pending approvals requisitions. So it gives me that detailed analysis in order to allow me to make an informed decision as to whether I should actually be approving this requisition or not. So this is where I have the capacity to either approve or reject these specific lines, either of which will update automatically the originator. So they're always kept in the loop as to what's happening to anything that they've generated. Or of course, I can approve or reject all. And if I have rejected it, I can pop in a reason as to why I've needed to reject it. At this point, it can go through to multiple users if it perhaps is over a certain value. Once it has been fully approved, this is where it's now going to automatically post into standard Sage purchase order processing for you without the need to manually be keying that in. And there we go. There's that purchase order that's been fully approved through the requisitions application, and it's now generated our purchase order. So from here, we've got a couple of options on how that's now sent out to the supplier. You can either use standard Sage in order to email it out. You could use our document distribution. So for more information on that, please refer to our website to again automatically email it out and perhaps attach some additional information. Or you've also got the ability to send that out either automatically through approvals or the ability for your users to send that out themselves. Don't worry, there isn't the ability for your users to be able to send something out unless it has been fully approved. So you'll see if I come and have a look back in my tabs now, I've logged back in as Gordon, I can only print a quote request. If I come to my new, again, I've only got that ability to be able to print a quote request. But if I come to my approved tab, this is now where I've got that ability to print the summary. And there we go. There's that purchase order that's been fully approved. And this is where we can pop up with the purchase order. So we've got the purchase order number, we've got the information on what it is that we are wanting to order, along with the information against the supplier. And very simply, all I do is click send, and that will then automatically attach itself through to email. Now we can, of course, add additional information as well as additional email addresses, and that will then update the supplier accordingly. Now, for those of you who may not have purchase order processing, but you do want the functionality to be able to generate a purchase order, there is the ability to generate a requisition. We'll still check the nominal budgets back in Sage. We can fully approve it in here, but you will need our invoice approval module to then match that directly through approvals. And once it's then been fully approved in the invoice module, that's when it will then post into the purchase ledger back in Sage. For those of you who do a three-way matching and need your staff to do a goods received, we all know how annoying it is trying to chase staff to get those clarifications of good received note. All of that also can be done through the approvals portal. Indeed, we can actually send out reminder notifications for you so you don't have to be wasting valuable time in order to do that. I've logged in as Gordon and we can see all of those requisitions that have now appeared in here, and I can filter by the supplier or the purchase order number, and there's the one that we're now wanting to receive. So pretty simple. We click on receive and this will then pop up the information. We can pop in a suppliers document number, we can pop in a narrative, we can attach a goods received note, and then again using our documents module back in Sage, that gives us the ability to store and review that information. Now, I can do a part goods received, or I can do a receive all, and then that will automatically update the information for me. Now, it could be that we've received 10 of these items, but for whatever reason, we've ordered 10, but we only need 9. We can mark that as a final receipt, and it will then automatically amend the purchase order back in Sage for us. So if we click save, that's now doing a GRM back in Sage. So this is now going to book any stock items in if it is a stock item, and it will automatically update Sage to tell Sage that we have actually received those items. And there we go. We can see that both items have now been received. So again, eliminating the need for us to have to do that manually. So there's a number of different ways that we can configure an approval workflow. Obviously, the consultant will go through this in an awful lot more depth and detail with you, but just to give you a bit of a feel and a flavour for today, you can configure an approval workflow by the document types. If you do decide to use some of our other modules, then that gives you an awful lot more flexibility. If you have multiple companies, so approvals can link to as many company data sets as you like. We don't charge any more money for that. So there's the ability to configure a unique approval workflow based on the company. We can also determine the nominal cost center departmental code. And again, there's that ability to be able to specify specifically the approval workflow based on that. Now, there are a couple of other options which I haven't set in the background. The first of which is that you can set up one specifically by the supplier or alternatively by the person that's generating it. So if you come and have a look at an example of this, you can have as many people in your workflow as you like. And essentially what we've done in the background is we've decided the approval workflow's maximum limit. So when a requisition comes in, it will look at people in our list to determine how many people it needs to go through to. So that could be as simple as going through to one person at a time. It will look at their maximum approval value to say, well, how many people do I need to go through to? Although we could make those people mandatory, so it's always going to go through to everybody in that list, irrelevant of the value of the requisition coming through. So that's what we classify as a very simplistic one. So your alternative is to have an advanced way of setting up an approval workflow, which simply allows you to generate an automated email notification out to multiple people. So it could be that you've got 5 or 6 people in your finance department, any one of whom could actually approve the requisitions coming through. So typically you might have, let's say, a requisition for only £100 and only one person needs to sign off on it. But if it's anything higher than that, maybe £1,000, perhaps 2 out of the 5. So essentially, the higher the value, the more people that need to sign off on it. Any further information, please refer through to our help and user guides or have a chat with your Sage business partner.